class, we will be discussing the Crusades. Let's do a KWL. What do you know about the Crusades? This is the list of what we know about the Crusades. Religion was a factor. King Richard the Lionheart was a crusader. The Crusaders killed everyone who wasn't Christian, or did not convert to Christianity. The Crusaders were British. The Crusades were demanded by the Pope. The next step is to make a list under W of what we want to know. What do you want to know about the Crusades? Let's write it on the board. What we want to know: when did they happen? Why did the Pope want them to happen? Why were the Crusaders so violent? Where did the British go? Were knights the only crusaders? In order to complete the last part of the graphic organizer, we need to do some research. Now that you have done research, please present to your peers what you have discovered. I found out that the Crusades started after the Roman Empire lost its great power. The Muslims were expanding their empire, burning cities to kill those who didn't know Muhammad. I learned that there were 10 crusades. The first crusade was to fight the tyranny of the Muslims because people in Constantinople asked for help from the Pope. Pope Urban II asked for volunteers among the knights, wealthy nobles, and even kings to help Constantinople. He promised them complete forgiveness of their sins. The Crusaders tried to take Jerusalem from the Turks in this first crusade. The second crusade was to reclaim lost territories. They failed both crusades.
The Third Crusade was led by King Richard to recapture Jerusalem after the Muslims took over again. The Children's Crusade, between the Fourth and Fifth Crusades, consisted of thousands of boys and girls going to the Holy Land. Those who survived the journey arrived to be captured by the Muslims, who sold them into slavery or killed them. The rest of the Crusades failed in trying to reclaim land and defeat the non-Christians.
According to one source, even some peasants played a role in the Crusades. Quote, as these peasants started marching through Europe, they needed to eat, and eat they did, by pillaging the countryside. As they were marching along, they got the idea that they might as well get rid of the infidels in their midst. End quote. Unfortunately, the infidels were not only the Muslims, but Jews and Christians who did not accept the Pope as well. Many of the Crusades were failed attempts, but there were many consequences of them. Among all the Crusaders, there was a lot of pillaging, rampaging, and raping of people and land. Many of the buildings in Jerusalem saw additions to represent the Christian takeover. The Knights Templar took Muslim symbols off of temples and replaced them with crosses. They did this to create more churches in the name of the Pope in Rome.
There are many views on the Crusades. Some say they were evil. Some say they were a holy war, and others say that the Christians were only defending themselves. However, one thing is certain: the Crusades were a time of darkness for everyone. This lasted from 1095 until 1291, nearly 200 years.
Although Muslims were the main enemy, any non-Christians were not spared. Even Christians who did not recognize the Pope were slain.
Some Christians tried to save Jews at least, by reminding everyone what had been ordained for the Jews.
Thank you for those presentations on the Crusades. Let's take a look at the sources we used.